Oh, perfect. That's good.
Because the great thing about Zoom, it records video and an audio track, which helps me greatly. Oh, so how are you?
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm good. How are you doing, Ben?
Um, I've been good, and I've been a bit worse for wear on occasion, but yeah, I'm in good spirits.
Well, that's really good. I mean, the good is good. The worse for wear, I'm sorry to hear that. I do feel that. It's hard with the current climate and feels like day by day right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, obviously, up to about a week ago, I was working 6 days, 12 hours, night shifts or day shifts on testing centres in Edinburgh, which was not to say fun in itself, but when it becomes something that you do over and over and over again, it loses fun more than get to the mundane, I suppose.
Yeah, I could see that. That's been a very stressful job as well.
Yeah, and well, the only holiday I actually took was when I'd book it 2 weeks in advance, and I just sort of had to say, I need to take a break. It's not that I don't like the job. It's just I need to take care of myself over everything else.
That's really smart. Very smart.
Because I say I'd work 12 hours, usually 5 or 6 days. That's over 60 hours, 60 hours a week.
Yeah, that's too much, isn't it? Especially when you have to keep your health up so that you don't,
Yeah.
contract the virus yourself.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've always been I've been careful, as even when it started, that if I go out for whatever purpose I need to, and if I have no need to go out, then I stay in and do whatever else I need to.
Yeah, that's how we've been handling it too. We don't really leave flat very often. It's only for necessities and for the
Yeah.
dogs.
And how is Pete?
Yeah, Peter's doing very well. He's keeping his artwork up, which is very good. Um, he's been busy. He was refurbishing a bass guitar, which was quite a cool project. So he stripped it all back and sanded it down and then primed it and repainted it. And he has a new pick guard on it. And that all just came together finally yesterday because the paint was finally dry enough to actually finish the project. And it looks so good now.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. And I have actually seen some of Peter's artwork as well, and it looks absolutely amazing.
Isn't it? It's incredible. He's always
Yeah.
been a very strong artist, but he's got kind of like a fire lit under him right now, and he's just pumping out so many different pieces at the moment. It's very cool to see.
Oh, like I can imagine, because I'm no way artistic in that sense. But before the last year, obviously, I would sit and write loads of stories and stuff. And there's one I'm still working on, but I've had to put it on the back burner ever since March last year, and now I'm finally getting back to it, and those creative juices are starting to flow again, and I'm starting to write little bits day in, day out, and pushing it forward.
I think that's super cool. That's awesome. It's nice to have time to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice diversion. It helps in other respects, and obviously when I was doing the job, I was working the hours that I didn't have time, because I would get home first thing in the morning and just have to go straight to bed, and then get up late in the afternoon and go to work in the evening, and then
Yeah.
work through the night, and then come home again.
That sounds very stressful.
Mm. And on one occasion, heading to work, I actually slipped and fell in the mud.
Oh no, oh my gosh, I've done that so many times before. It is so bad, isn't it? And
Yeah.
embarrassing.
No, nobody saw me, but when I turned up to work, they were like, "Yeah, you, what happened to you?" I was like, "Well, I was heading down the hill and taking a shortcut through to the site I was working at, and just slipped, fell, and went boom, straight on my backside." I was
Oh no, it's almost.
and I
Well,
didn't have
I was gonna
time.
say it's almost worse. It's almost worse when people don't see you fall, because then you don't get to like laugh with somebody else at the mistake and be like, oh, it's okay, and then like laugh politely and stand up and brush yourself off. It's almost like you're just kind of sitting there going, oh.
Oh no, so I couldn't turn around and go home, get changed, and go all the way back again because I was miles away from home. So I just had to clean up as best I could once I got to work.
That's good.
Oh, so how's COVID been affecting you guys?
Well, like it was kind of really hard at the very beginning, adjusting to living in a very small flat in a very busy city, with very minimal outdoor space. I think that was probably the hardest adjustment, was learning to stay inside and like and being okay with that and not being anxious, I guess, about staying inside for so much of the time. But obviously, like we're firm believers in doing our part and staying inside like as much as possible and only leaving when absolutely necessary. But that just doesn't take away some of the grief you feel about having to do it for long periods of time. So I think that that was probably one of our biggest struggles. And it's like my wrist injury's been not great throughout the whole process, and everything's been on hold for me for a year now, and they still aren't scheduling surgeries. So that's another kind of rubbish part that I've been battling with. And it's kind of something that I've just had to kind of send out and let go and just accept that I don't have control over it. And once I realized that that's what I had to do, it's made it a lot easier to handle, because it's still disappointing, but it just is what it is, and it has to be that way. So hopefully the world starts turning again soon, and I can get my surgery, and then we can start playing some more music again and doing some live streams. But I would say that those are the two major kind of roadblocks that we've kind of faced. And then aside from that, I think that once we got over those things and started really focusing, we've been pretty productive throughout it, and we've managed to stay pretty active and keep ourselves entertained, which is really good.
Well, I hope you get your wrist seen to soon. I really do. Obviously, well,
Thank you.
I'm gonna make you. I might make you feel slightly bad because I actually had to go into hospital towards the end of last year because I had a growth on my finger, on the one that everybody thinks that
Oh,
I've got.
that's scary.
Yeah, I had a massive fear that I was thinking it was the big C. Turns out I was
Ugh.
very very lucky. It was just a benign tumor, and I had it excised that very same day, and I was back home with my finger in bandages for a couple of weeks, and then I mean it didn't affect my job because obviously I'm not using my hands that much, and obviously we've got to keep away from each other even at work. But I had a concern that
Well,
what if it was.
I'm really glad that you were able to have a surgery, because that's so important. I can't imagine having discovered something like that, anywhere on your body, and thinking like if they had made you wait, I think it would have been completely devastating physically and emotionally for you, because you would just be put through, so you wouldn't have known, would you? So it's really good that they did manage to squeeze you in and get that sorted, and I'm so glad that it was not cancer. That's scary.
Yeah, the moment when they told me what it was, and I was relieved beyond anything. And they said, "Do you want to exercise today?" I was like, "Yes." So I was moved to the outpatient surgery ward, and I probably sat waiting 20 minutes, and then I was taken into into the operation room. I was kept awake the entire time. I was aware of everything that was going on, but they just numbed out my finger, and I mean, obviously, I felt where they were poking and making sure they've got it all out, but it was still quite a surreal experience. But
that's absolutely surreal and very, very crazy, but I'm so glad that it wasn't anything serious and that it's done. That's very good.
Has lockdown changed your mentality when it comes to doing songwriting?
It's an interesting question. I think, yeah, it has, because for me, like, as confident as I sound when I say that I'm over the fact that I don't have control over my wrist, whenever I sit down to write a song, I'm kind of forced to go through the motions of coming to terms with that again, because I can't play my guitar properly and it hurts to play an instrument. So it's something that I feel like I've shied away from a bit, because it's been something that is not giving me as much as it's taking from me, if that makes sense. So I've really struggled with that. On the occasion that, like, I'll write with Peter, where Peter's playing bass, and then it's a challenge of writing with a different instrument, then it's a different story, and that's like, I find that really fun. But I haven't written anything new in like, I want to say like almost 2 months, and I'm okay with that, because I think I just need to take the time to pay attention to what's going on inside of my head. So I would say that it has changed how I've been approaching songwriting, but not in a direct way, because it's kind of indirect, because my wrist is postponed because of COVID. So therefore, COVID has changed my writing approach and how I feel about writing, but it's not a direct result, if that makes any sense at all. What a long-winded answer.
I'm sure people can understand that and follow where you're coming from.
Yeah, I hope so.
Oh, and recently you released Cheating Man. That was for Valentine's Day, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, that was on last Friday, or on February 12th, so right before Valentine's Day.
Where did the inspiration come for that one?
That one is a song that I wrote ages ago, like ages. It must have been close to 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And that was me writing about a situation that my friend was going through with her then husband at the time. And so I wrote that from my perspective, looking in, warning other people about people like that, and like kind of just expressing what I would express to, the next girl who might be down the line for that person. So that's not about anybody really directly in my life anymore, but it's that, and it's a song I've always enjoyed playing live, and people have requested a recording of it for a while, but it was also the last song that I wrote in Canada before I moved over here kind of permanently. And I think that the reason I hadn't recorded it until now was because I wanted the Canadian band and my Canadian friends to be involved in it as well. And we actually recorded this last year when we were on tour in Canada, right before the pandemic hit. It was at the tail end of the winter holiday. So we had visited my family in BC on Vancouver Island for Christmas that year, and we rented out a studio and we recorded basically the skeleton of the track using my friends and using my friend Jacob's studio there, and my really good friend Jessie McCloy on the electric guitar, and we had Alana Clark doing backing vocals. And so we just involved people who were really a big part of my journey, my musical journey in Canada. And then it sat, and it just kind of got pushed aside for other singles that popped up and other opportunities that popped up, and we never finished it because we were planning on finishing it in Canada when we went back. And obviously we didn't go back last summer, and so we kind of just thought this year, let's finish it over here, let's wrap it up, let's put it out to the world, and let's do it on Valentine's Day because it's kind of funny. So we did that.
So when you moved to London, did you have any idea about what the music scene would bring for you?
I've always been really drawn to the UK, so I did do a lot of touring over here before we moved here. And funnily enough, I always said I would never live in London. I hands down, I the first time I came to this city, I was like, nope, not for me. I'm never gonna live in a city like this. And then uh, the things you do for love when you fall in love with somebody and their job is in London. And actually, I'm so glad that Peter's job was based here because I had no idea how much I loved this city. And I wouldn't have given it a chance otherwise until I had to give it a chance. And I love this city. I love London. I really, really do. I went from absolutely not liking it to loving it completely. And if you had told me 10 years ago when I was living on Vancouver Island in the Comox Valley that I would be living in one of the biggest, most bustling, um, diverse, and colorful cities in the world, I would have laughed at you and I would have been, I was fat chance, I'm going to live on a farm. So, um, yeah, I don't think I did have any real idea of what the music scene was here because I never gave it a chance until I got here, and I love it. So I'm very pleasantly surprised.
That's fantastic. I mean, back when I was younger, I used to live in a small village, and then every so often we'd go out and do day trips to places like London. So it was great to see the. And then I've been living up in Edinburgh for the last just over 9 years now, and only in the last 2 years I've sort of migrated back a little bit and now living in a little village, which is great because I'm not getting all the. I don't mind. I say I don't mind the loud noise of a city. It's just it's nice to sort of come home and just sort of retreat if you can follow where I was going.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're dealing right now with the fact that we love London now a lot and we don't want to leave it. But at the same time, I am missing our country roots. And I do want to head back to having more space and nights where you can sleep all the way through the night without waking up to somebody shouting at somebody else down the road. So I do understand what you're saying.
Uh, and I think we met for the second time when you did the Year That Never Happened album, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah. Or no, we met 3 times, I think, because we met when you came down to the World's End pub for that gig, and then we met in Edinburgh for very briefly for a coffee and a hot chocolate, I think, at 2019, and then we met again for the CD release.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah. Even I've forgotten about that second time.
the Edinburgh, I love the Edinburgh trip. I didn't forget because I love Edinburgh so much.
So I love Edinburgh in the summertime. It's great because I mean, yeah, there's loads of tourists that come into the city and stag nights and hen nights and whatnot, but it's still a great time for the city because it's alive. You don't get probably half the experiences that you would have any other time in the year.
Yeah, that's true.
And I have met a lot of good friends on the Fringe as well because I worked it for 4 years, first 4 years that I lived up here.
That's very cool.
So that was again long. Those were long days as well, but it was well worth it because I'm. If you do you know the comedian Kai Humphries?
I don't think so.
No, I met him when he did his first Edinburgh show, I believe, and also another comedian, Naz Osmanalou. I met him when he did his solo show up here as well, and also when he did with his comedy trio as well. So I have met, I say,
Very cool.
a lot of people, and I thought it's a side I actually love. Well, as much as doing all the technical work, and which is actually where I prefer to be rather than out front on stage. Even though I wouldn't say no to doing it. It's just not where my heart is because for years that I troubled with stage fright, and it was crippling to anything, and I would actually burst into tears, and then I just want to run and just escape. But
Oh, that's really hard to handle. And stage fright is huge. Stage fright is such an overpowering emotion, and I feel like once it starts, it's really hard to calm it down if you don't have it in control before you step out. It escalates very quickly, doesn't it?
oh yeah, it does, and I I I still do when it comes to putting the radio shows together that I do. I procrastinate a lot, and I mean it helps me just sort of get in the right mind frame, I suppose, and then I just have a great time when I put the shows together and do them live on the radio.
That's awesome. That's great.
I mean the greatest thing when I do shows is I pick artists such as yourself to bring them to a wider audience, I suppose.
We really appreciate what you do, Ben. It's very cool. It's very, very cool.
And recently you were part of Girl Talk, I do believe.
Yeah, that's coming up real soon, isn't it? That's only about 3 weeks out, but I was a part of that, and that was such a cool project to be a part of. I had no idea the scale of involvement, like, of how many people were involved. Like, I knew there was gonna be a handful of women on the track, but I had no idea it was gonna be such a big project. It is so cool to be involved in something this big.
Um, Sorry, that's my door getting banged because of with the window being opened. How who were you approached by to join the project?
Oh, that was by Amelia. I love Amelia. She fired me a message one day and asked me. I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And then she sent me the song via a link over Facebook Messenger, I think even, and then I took a listen to it. It's a great song. I'm super excited for it.
So I'm just trying to. There we go. That'll work for a while. So I was just pinning the door down so I didn't hear it bang against the frame again. Yeah, because I've spoken to Amelia, and she's quite excited about the project as well.
Yeah, it's great. It's such a cool project to be a part of.
And going back to the year that never happened, how did that album come about?
That was about the year that we spent immigrating here. So it feels like a lifetime ago, to be honest. It was we released the album about 4 months before lockdown hit, and we had a whole bunch of tour plans for it, which obviously didn't happen because of COVID and travel restrictions, and my injury. To be honest, even if COVID hadn't have happened, I probably would have been dealing with my injury for at least a couple of months. So that all kind of got pushed to the side. But that was about our year that we spent immigrating here when we got married. So we got married, and I was here on a young person's work visa. And then when my young person's work visa was about to expire, we applied for a married visa for my indefinite leave to remain. Bearing in mind that I have like my ancestry is Scottish and English. So like all of my roots are from here, but not close enough for me to have a passport. It's like my grandparents essentially. Um, and when we applied, we were sure that we were going to get it, and they declined us on a stipulation. And it was devastating. The whole thing was devastating. And the worst part about it was that we couldn't apply right again because they had since applying the first time to applying the second time, they moved the system for applications online, and they had a technical glitch on the application that we needed to apply through. And they didn't fix it for months because every time I called in, they assured me that I was doing something wrong. And so we paid for incredibly expensive phone calls because they charge you by the minute to talk to a team member to raise the issue again and again and again. And finally got through to somebody who was like, "Oh, yeah, this is actually our fault. And I was like, well, that's lovely that you're taking responsibility for it finally. What do we do now? And they basically said, oh, just like lie, like put down this answer and then explain it in the comments. And I mean, we normally would have done that in the first place, but because we had already been declined on a stipulation for having one thing wrong in the application, we didn't want to move forward with a second one because you don't get a refund on your application. So the whole thing was a huge mess, and it took close to a year to come back and actually go through. And it took close to a year for me to get my right to come and live with my husband in the UK. And it was a devastating year, full of loss and depression, and I had to stop playing music while I was over here. We chose to have me wait here on a visitor visa for the amount for as much of the time as I could because we didn't want to be separated. We obviously didn't get married to spend a year apart from each other waiting to be together. And so I couldn't play music while we were here. I couldn't work while we were here. They wouldn't let me do volunteer jobs because they said volunteer jobs led to employment and I didn't have the right visas for it. So I literally sat in our flat with our dog and took my dog on adventures. And it would have been great if we had money, but we lost so much money in the application and had to come up with money to apply again. And we're working on one salary that it was just a really bad year. So that album is about that year that we spent immigrating. And it was the only way that we could kind of make that year be less tragic when we looked back on it, because now we have an album that's full of all of the emotions that we felt throughout it. And it kind of just gave us closure.
Well, that, yeah, I'm gonna say I don't believe it when they said that every job in volunteering can end in actual employment. That's not. I don't think that's actually technically the case, but
I
things.
don't know what it is. I don't know why, but at that point when they said not to, we didn't want to argue it. Like I couldn't do a single thing that would possibly count towards like denying our visa again. So like we just lived like by the rules to the T.
But I mean, credit to you. I mean, obviously, with sticking to the rules, you're living now in London, and you've try that again. You know, as you're now living in London, and you obviously you with Peter, and you got whiskey the dog, and you've also got another dog as well.
Yeah, we have two dogs. We adopted a second dog in August, and that was a really funny moment because we were talking about how much we wanted another dog. Then we started looking at the prices of dogs, and yes, we are firm believers of adopting, not shopping, but some people don't understand when you don't have a garden, they won't give you a dog. And our dogs have the best life. Our dogs have the best life, but if we went to a shelter, they wouldn't give us a dog. And there's dogs sitting in shelters that don't have love and they don't have people who take them out in the pouring rain to go to the off lead dog park like once a day and then take them on 5 kilometer walks. Like they wouldn't give us a dog. So we were looking at buying a dog. Whiskey was kind of a rescue. He came secondhand. We call him our little secondhand dog. But we wanted to have a second one for a friend for him. And when we started looking, we realized just how lucky we were when we adopted Whiskey and got him, like, only had to pay a small adoption fee for him, and how expensive puppies were. And we're like, well, this just is out of the question. We can't afford this right now. And a week later, we got a message from a friend who we met at the dog park in our area, and her ex-boyfriend needed to rehome his puppy named Joey. So he had a dog named Joey who needed rehoming. And it was a dog that we had met before. And she basically asked us out of the blue. She was like, "This is very weird, but would you be interested in adopting Joey? Because we really want him to go to a good family. And we know how much you love Whiskey and we think they'd be a good fit." And it was a very simple exchange, and it was very heartbreaking for the fellow who owned him before, but he's transitioned into our household seamlessly. He is such a big part of our family now, and him and Whiskey have such a good time together. So we did end up with a dog named Joey, who's 2.5. So he's past the point of renaming, and we thought it was too funny to rename him, so we kept it.
So it's the two Joeys then.
It is. It's Peter, Joey, Whiskey, and Joey.
That is brilliant, especially in the circumstances that brought it about.
I love it. I love it. We thought it was too perfect. It was one of those moments where you're like, this is the universe. Like, we have to say yes. We have to say yes to this.
And currently you're doing interviews on YouTube on a Monday evening at 5 o'clock UK time.
That's right. Yeah, we've got My First Song Monday live session on YouTube, and it's just an hour long that features a new songwriter every week. And at the end of the evening together, the songwriter plays the first song that they wrote. And it's just a chance to talk about songwriting. And mostly I did it so that I could keep up with staying in touch with older friends that I don't often get a chance to speak to, and also kind of use my platform to help promote other artists, especially when I was unable to promote myself in play shows. So I wanted to kind of create a different stage and setting where I could help shout about people that I really, really believe in.
I can understand that. Who have you had on your show?
Oh, we've had loads of people on the show recently. We've had, let me call up some people that you might know. Yeah, we've had such a big amount of people through. I think we're up to episode 27 this week. So we had Jamie Wood from Backwoods Creek and Cloudy Galvez, Brody Dawson, Kate Cameron, Harrison Smith, Harry North. We've had Baldwin, Hallie Kearns. Yeah, we've had loads of people come through. Lots and lots, and they're from all around the world too, which is really cool. So it's been very interesting catching up and seeing people's different perspectives.
Is there anyone that you would love to have on your show?
Oh, loads of people I would love to have on the show. I don't even know where to start. We've got a big list of like people coming up that are scheduled to come and play shows in the future. I usually try and keep that as a surprise until the week of, so that people can hopefully subscribe to the channel and then get in the habit of listening in on Mondays, and then for the show rather than just for the artist, if that makes any sense. But I would love to have, there's an artist named Raina Roberts. She's incredible, from the States. She's a country music artist. She would be really cool to have on here. I would love to have my friend Alexandria Mayo on here. Who else? I'm trying to think of people that I don't have scheduled already, so I don't give away people who are playing in the future. Yeah, I think my goal with it is to speak to lots of people. I'm trying to keep it to people that, or I was trying to keep it to people who were on my radar, who I'd had previous established conversations with before. But obviously I'm going to run out of people because we've been inside for a year, so I'm not meeting new people. So I think it's going to open up and include more people.
And where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm all across social media. I would say if they want to find me, it's Joey Clarkson Music on Facebook and on Instagram and on TikTok and YouTube. And it is just on Twitter. I'm most active, I think, now on Twitter, which is really weird for me because that used to be my least active platform. So I'm on Twitter a lot. I'm on Instagram, Facebook fairly regularly, and TikTok is something I'm terrible at, but every now and then I post. YouTube, I do regular live sessions though, so that's another great place to connect.
That's fantastic. I will actually agree. I've probably been less active on Facebook and slightly more on Twitter, but I am actually also on Instagram now, which is something in the past I actually said I would never get and I would never join. how quickly I've changed.
Well, look at you go.
Uh,
A year inside will do that.
it was actually way before. I think not long before COVID that I actually joined, and I'm even on TikTok, and I don't actually post that much either. I mean, I put a few up, but I've not put anything of myself up yet. But there's still time.
Loads of time.
Well, thank you, Joe, for your time. And just to say that for anyone who wants to find out more about you, you can go to my Facebook page, Ben Dyson, on 107.6 ECFM, where you can find all our guest social media accounts. And you're welcome back anytime, Joe. And I wish you all the best.
Thanks so much, Ben. I really appreciate it. It's been so lovely talking to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Joey.
Bye.
Bye.